George Foreman versus Mike Tyson. Now, when I think about this, I think about two different versions of each. I think of the young, hungry versions of both fighters. Then I think of the older, more patient fighters. So we've got young George Foreman and young Mike Tyson. Now, both were hungry, and they put the fear of God into their opponents. Now, when looking at the two younger versions of them, I think of a George Foreman that's slow, very powerful, yet uses his power as one of his only things. He makes up for what skill he doesn't have with his power, right? But he wasn't very patient with his punches. He was in the beginning, but once he let loose, and it really did come back to bite him later. An example of that would be the Rumble in the Jungle against Muhammad Ali, which was when he just let out all of his power and then was too tired and got knocked out in the 8th round because he used none of his skill, he only relied on his power. Now, when looking at young Mike Tyson, I think of a young, hungry beast that had amazing movement, amazing speed, and also relied on his power. However, I think Mike Tyson's training was much better, and his movement was also much more fluent. He was able to dodge punches by bobbing and weaving, whereas George Foreman used a cross-arm defense, which is bringing both your arms up like that and absorbing shots. But his forearms were massive, so he could take it. Now, when looking at the two fighters, I think, who has the better chin? Well, I would have to say George Foreman in this situation, because, as seen in his fight with Ron Lyle, he was able to take a ton of shots from a very hard hitter and still get up, and he knocked out Ron Lyle as well in that fight. When looking at Mike Tyson, he also had a very good chin. However, I still have to give this one to George Foreman because I don't think that Mike Tyson took the same type of shots that George Foreman took. Now, when looking at power, I look at a man named Evander Holyfield who fought both George Foreman and Mike Tyson. He, years later in an interview, stated that George Foreman had much more power and even his jab hurt. Mike Tyson's jab didn't hurt. When looking at speed and movement, I have to give this to a young Mike Tyson, because as said before, his bobbing and weaving was unmatched. Nobody could touch him. George Foreman took shots. He absorbed them, but he still couldn't move out of the way. Now, when looking at the fight, I imagine that a young Mike Tyson would be able to stop George Foreman by continually dodging his punches, using his superior movement and his superior footwork and his superior speed to knock out George Foreman. That's all. Hope you have a lovely day.